In view of the recent BBC documentary series about certain ex-disciples' allegation against Prophet TB Joshua, currently trending in the news and on social media, well, I decided to speak on this matter because I have the moral obligation to do so as a devotee who served under the prophet till his last moment, and privileged to be made a trustee of the Squan Ministries, and also being the face behind Emmanuel TV commentaries since its inception. I would have loved to toe the path of my mentor, who in his characteristic manner never used to respond to critics and blasphemers because of their ignorance and arrogance.
Will forgive me, and the church synagogue will forgive me. Instead of humility, I've been very proudful, I've been aggressive, I've been rebellious. When I left the synagogue church, nobody asked me to leave. I'm asking God to forgive me.
With medicine.
Good morning and win today. I am Evangelist Joseph David. In view of the recent BBC documentary series about certain ex-disciples' allegation against Prophet TB Joshua, currently trending in the news and on social media, well, I decided to speak on this matter because I have the moral obligation to do so as a devotee who served under the prophet till his last moment, and privileged to be made a trustee of the Squan Ministries, and also being the face behind Emmanuel TV commentaries since its inception. I would have loved to toe the path of my mentor, who in his characteristic manner never used to respond to critics and blasphemers because of their ignorance and arrogance. You know, it is pretty hard to convince a mind that is already warped or biased. Remember when Jesus stood trial before Pontius Pilate, he remained silent when he realized that the truth had been ignored. However, I am doing this to strengthen the faith of the millions of people who have been followers of the TB Joshua's ministries and have been greatly inspired by his teachings, impacted by his miracles, and benefited from his generosity through various works of charity. To them I say, cheer up. Prophet TB Joshua is just being ushered into his posthumous Hall of Fame with these new waves of free adverts. As someone who served in the Squan Ministries for 27 years of my life, all those so-called disciples met me in the ministry except Bisola. I knew how most of them came and why they left, but I didn't think it was necessary refuting any of those fabricated allegations, fabricated confessions coming from the lips of disgruntled persons who could not endure the discipline of discipleship, and as a result dropped out with malicious discontent. And now it's time to make a career from tarnishing the reputation of the same man you once called daddy and enjoyed his fatherly love and care for so many years. What a shame. I'm not here to attack anyone, but I will only touch on a few issues that border on those things some people so much believe as convincing pieces of evidences. Those materials you see must have taken some serious time and effort to carefully craft them together. For instance, the prophet never stopped disciples from getting married. He only taught us that it is better for one to secure his or her future first before going into marriage. He said, since marriage is both a commitment and responsibility, if you are still in the pursuit of your career and at the same time thinking about marriage, it becomes an unnecessary liability. That is it. As he said, how can I be backing you and you are backing someone else? And for goodness sake, how do you think a leader who is married and have children will stop his followers from doing the same? So firstly, the lady Angelique had left the ministry way back to her country because she wanted to get married to a fellow disciple, but the prophet advised her based on what I have just said, but she disagreed and left. After a long while, she suddenly reappeared in front of the church gate with a hidden camera and started screaming, causing scene. He had sex with me, he made love with me. Why didn't she do that when she was living? Come on, you call that evidence? No, it is acting. And please take this for records. Ajoke was never a biological daughter of Prophet TB Joshua. The prophet has only 3 biological daughters and the whole world know them. Ajoke was a few days old baby abandoned under a truck around the church premises by her callous mother. The prophet picked her up and reported the case to the police, and rather than sending her to the orphanage home, he chose to father her. Despite adopting her as his own daughter and giving her all the fatherly love and care. And this little girl was growing up to the admiration of everyone and suddenly became utterly rebellious, to the point that everyone became fed up of her, and one day she left. All her records are in the SCOAN archives. Why did Agoma Paul leave the SCOAN? He was sent as an evangelist to the SCOAN branch in Ghana, and there he fell in love with the daughter of a regional minister. The prophet, being a man of vision, called him and said, I am not saying you shouldn't get married. You are of age, of course, but I don't see any future in your relationship with this lady. But Agoma was hell-bent on marrying this lady. And sadly, after the prophet told him this, few months later, the lady in question died. And Agoma became disoriented and began rebelling even whilst in the discipleship quarters. So the prophet called him one day and said, Agoma, I can see that your mind is no longer here. And rather than offending the Holy Spirit, let me bless you so that you may go. So the prophet blessed him and he left. Rachel had the spirit of woman, as we call it in the SCOAN, and as she rightly confessed, the prophet sent her back home to her country, UK, several times, and still years after, she refused to be delivered. So she left. Bisola was continuously rebellious, and the prophet sent her home one day to call her mother. When the mother came, she thanked the prophet so much for being able to harbor her daughter all these years, despite her unbearable character. Then she told the prophet in the presence of Bisola, Man of God, I know you are a true prophet of God, but Bisola is my daughter and I know her very well. I don't think you are able to tame her.
My name is Bisola. I've acted as an enemy of God rather than a friend. I'm coming today as a prodigal daughter so that God will forgive me, and the man of God will forgive me, and the old church synagogue will forgive me and help me out of my human limitation. Instead of humility, I've been very proudful. I've been aggressive. I keep malice. I do all kinds of things that are not worthy of a Christian.
Sister, can you start all over again? We are very sorry, we have a little technical each here.
My name is Bisola. I've acted as an enemy of God rather than a friend. And today I am coming back as a prodigal daughter so that God will forgive me, so that the man of God will forgive me, and the church synagogue will forgive me. Instead of humility, I've been very proudful. I've been aggressive. I've been rebellious. When I left the synagogue church, nobody asked me to leave. I'm asking God to forgive me.
The rest stories about Bisola, how she came to the squan, and what problem brought her, are all packaged in the video posted by the church when she and Agomo Paul first embarked on their campaign of calumny against TB Joshua, tagged Deception of the Age. I know you are hearing most of these things for the first time, and I can go on and on, but let me stop here.
If there is anything that is bothering you, my friend, please say it so others will learn. Bring it to true dreams with Lady T, and God will be your strength. Bring it to true dreams